Hello readers, I'm Amy, and I don't know what I just read, but it was great, but it was weird and horrifying, but it was great. Tender is the Flesh, just released in an English translation. This book is following the character of Marcos in this dystopia society where supposedly animals have a virus that they've suddenly obtained, and it means that people can't eat animals anymore. So the world now has permission to start eating people. And what did I just read? I saw Victoria, from what Victoria read, talk about this book a couple of months ago. So, I'm guessing the English translated edition was just released in England before it was released here in America. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like a really interesting synopsis. I really want to read that. And I loved it. But also I'm like, what? Wow. I don't even know where to start this. First off, trigger warnings for just about everything. There is some animal abuse, there's rape. The rape isn't really detailed. Sorry, my phone. It's not really talked about as rape. But the animal abuse part was a little tough for me. It's just for a page or two, but it goes into more detail with it, so that was hard. There is eating of children. There is eating of women and men. There's eating of penises. Literal feasting on them as a dish. One of the hardest things though, it made the book so good, but it was also very jarring, is that there is slaughterhouse and animal terminology used concerning the humans that are being eaten. I will give you one example so that you know what you're getting into with this book. It's not a huge spoiler or anything, but I just think that you should have an idea of what you're going into. In one part of the book, it talks about how the female head, so like a head of cattle, but it's a head of humans, female heads are put into the milking machines for their udders to be milked. That is the way in which that sort of thing is discussed. It's discussed in that animal slaughterhouse, technical terminology way, but we're addressing humans. And it makes me think, it reminds me of my, Animals in Society sociology class that I took in college, where we learned about, the interaction of animals and people, and we were talking about, zoos and aquariums, and it reminded me a lot of that. And in this book, it's whenever I hear about that kind of stuff happening with animals, I'm not always okay with it, but I'm a carnivore. I eat meat. I guess I'm an omnivore because I also eat other things, but I am a meat eater. I don't eat as much meat as I used to, but I do eat it. I prefer to know where it comes from, but I also can't really afford to always know where it comes from. But it just had me thinking, of the animal rights movements and the way we talk about animals when we eat them or when they're in labs. So it just gave me a lot to think about. As for inspirations for this book, there was a lot here. It is a dystopia, so it reminded me of several dystopias that I've heard about or read. There was one character in particular that got me really excited, and I'm like, this is totally Dracula, because I annotated this book a lot. There's this character who is Romanian, and he's really creepy, and our narrator is just it seems like there's all these voices under his skin that are trying to escape, and I'm like, that's Dracula right there. There's also a story that I read back in middle school called The Most Dangerous Game, and it is about this man who hunts humans because he thinks they're more interesting to hunt than animals like lions or tigers. He considers them to be the most dangerous game, and while I'm sure this is a fairly common story, The Most Dangerous Game is the one that I am familiar with, so that is the one that was kind of my reference for this book, because there's all sorts of groups of people. And this book kind of felt like The Handmaid's Tale, in that while there is a plot line, that's not the focus of the book. The focus of the book is the characters and the world building. So we really get a good look at this dystopian world. We have people who work in laboratories. There's this woman doctor who is very much like a Joseph Mengele. Is it pronounced Joseph? Joseph Mengele from World War II. There's really a lot of World War II references in talking about immigration and breeding and experiments and just all sorts of stuff. So beware of lots of World War II references. I had all sorts of notes in this book just for things that I was reminded of. It's very dark. It's not in any way a light, easy read. It's not like... Just really be careful when going into this book. I did love it. As friend Demi said, I devoured this book, which is darkly humorous, but this is not for the faint of heart. Like, please be forewarned. This is a very, very, very dark book, and I really, really loved it, but it was also a very jarring reading experience. It was a very difficult reading experience, even though I loved it. I think that's pretty much what I have to say about it. This is also my first Argentinian author, and I would love to read more of her, but apparently this is the only book she has that's translated in English. And I've been talking to people about it. I'm like, this was just recently translated into English. This book has actually been around for 3 years, and it just makes me think, what other books am I missing out on because I only speak and read in English? Like, imagine all of the awesome stories that I'm missing out on. Wow. Yeah, that's it from me. I don't read a ton of horror, but I've been getting into it more this year because I need to read something that makes life seem a little less scary, so if you're in that kind of mood, maybe consider this. Please like, subscribe, be my friend on social media, and talk to me more about this book down in the comments, please. I will see all of you in my next video. Bye, friends.